Hmm.
Hello, everyone. This is the Three Black Pratt Photographers podcast or discussions that we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And this particular episode is going to be about gear, not so much the gear that what's in your bag or anything like that, but pretty much the gear you don't use. Like the things that you really wish that you had, but you didn't get, the things that you bought and discovered, you really shouldn't have bought that and you didn't need it. And also the things that you wish you were still using but used to use. And the funny thing is that photography is a medium where, as we've discussed before, there's analog, there's digital. You can do anything from film to a cell phone to 150 megapixel or 400 megapixel camera, but it depends on what you're going to do and what you need to accomplish that task. And so we're going to talk about some of those things that would make what we do as individuals type photographers a little easier to do. And I'm Mark Skinner, and this is Greg Cleghorn and Kenneth Nelson. And I guess we will start with either one of you. Which one do you want to start with? Or should I start with me?
I'll go first because I do have show and tell. I'm
Hey,
sorry, Mark. I got show and tell. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly. This is the Mamiya 7. I'm sorry, this is the 7 II, but the Mamiya 7 is the original camera that I purchased back in '99. It was the second medium format camera that I have ever used, and it was the epitome of my dreams. And so I purchased it, and I've been shooting with it since 1999. This is the camera that I currently own, which is very similar to the Mamiya because they're both rangefinder cameras. And this is the camera that I hope to get someday because it looks very similar, but it's just a different version. This is the Leica M10, which I own. This is the Leica M10 monochrome, which I would love to own. The difference is the M10 is colored. The M10 monochrome shoots just in black and white. The reason why, when I'm shooting in black and white, I think in black and white. But when I'm shooting with the M10, I don't necessarily think in black and white. And therefore, it has a different way of photographing. So I'll just be quick about this, right? So I brought this little thing. And this is one of the show and tells that I want to see. This is one of the interesting things about the Leica M10. This image is shot. This woman is standing about 20 feet away from me, maybe 25 feet. And this is a 50 millimeter lens. So you see how it looks. It looks pretty clear and everything. The autofocus areas are pretty nice and everything, right? And then you look, and this is a 100% zoom in. And I'll just actually make it bigger in the space. I think I can make it bigger. Okay.
Or optical zoom?
This is digital zooming. This is 100% view in on your screen. Okay, so it's zooming in 100%. So this is at 100%. Okay, and this is at 200%. All right. So when you look at this image and you're like, holy crap, the resolving power of that lens is pretty freaking amazing. So
how is the M10 monochrome going to improve your process?
It's going to actually take me back to the original. Because when I started to shoot with the monochrome, when I started to shoot with color only, I began to think less about shadow and light and more about other things. And one of the key features of when you're shooting in black and white is you really you don't think about color. You just think about tonalities. And so I sort of want to get back to that.
You're good. You can think in black and white.
You can, yeah. What is it?
Oh yeah.
What was it? Oh man, who said it? The famous black and white photographer who said about preconceive your images. Ansel Adams, thank you.
Pre-visualization.
Pre-visualization, thank you. That's what it boils down to, pre-visualization. And so I just wanted to. This is why I love the Leica M10, but this image is from the Mamiya 7. And one of the things about the Mamiya 7 is that it's multidimensional, meaning that you could take it from street photography portraits to street photography to landscapes.
Now, is the Mamiya an example of a camera that you no longer use but wish you did for some reason?
The last time I used the Mamiya 7 was 3 years ago,
Okay.
because I acquired the Leica 3 years ago.
Right. But I mean, the reason why I'm asking is because what's happening now is you have a color digital camera that you're converting into black and white in
Yeah,
post. Can
yeah.
you use that camera to create monochromatic images in camera currently?
No, the camera it's a color only camera. You can
Okay.
shoot, you can pull out a JPEG black and white if you want to, but the raw file is a color coded file.
Okay.
So you can convert it post when you bring it into Lightroom, but you can't do it in camera. The Leica monochrome does it in camera only. There is no way to get a color image out of this camera.
Right.
It is just a black and white sensor. And so
So would you move your entire workflow to black and white to do that, or is that specific tool for the specific subjects that you'll be covering?
it would be a general way of me going about photographing. It's not for a specific thing or specific genre or specific thing, like landscapes or street photography. I would use it all around the same way I use the M10 or the Mamiya 7, and the same way I use the M10. It just would be a different one, and I wouldn't necessarily take them out at the same time. So in other words, some photographers take two cameras out, one with a different lens on it, or one with film, black and white film, and one with color. I wouldn't do that. I'm a one camera setup person, so I would just take one camera at a time. It keeps you from switching back and forth. It keeps you from handling extra gear, and so that's sort of my dream thing.
Right,
And
but that's because you do a specific type of photography with this type of gear. You use this for street photography primarily, and sometimes you
yes,
do landscapes and
yes,
portraits, but primarily it's street photography.
yes,
And
yes.
so, because of what you're doing, that's why you're choosing this specific tool.
Yeah,
Okay.
this camera is so small, and it's so compact, and the quality coming out of this camera is so amazing that it really is. And it first of all, it functions the same way I like seeing. This is the rangefinder of the camera, and this is the taking lens of the camera. I'm not looking through the lens. I'm looking through this rangefinder, and that's the way the Mamiya 7 works as well. This is the rangefinder. This is the lens, and that's the this is the type of camera I love using because of the convenience of it, because of the swiftness of it, and because I don't like single lens reflex cameras anymore, although I do have them in my arsenal.
You take
Uh,
that back.
yeah, because you know that a single lens reflex camera has a mirror in it that has to move out of the way so the film is exposed, and that mirror is called the mirror slap, and I just don't like it. It's just
Well, you know what I have to ask, right? Go ahead, Ken. Greg,
what
sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
They have mirrorless
I
SLRs.
was gonna say they have
Mirrorless.
mirrorless.
they
You take
don't
Yeah.
have
that back,
mirrorless
Mr.
film
Nelson. You take that
cameras.
back.
They don't
Take
have
that back.
mirrorless film cameras.
Okay.
They do have mirrorless digital, but not mirrorless film. And so I went to transition years ago to mirrorless. So the M7 has no mirrors. That was in 1999. Okay. But I didn't buy it because it was mirrorless. I brought it because it was the quietest camera in its category ever.
Right, but to speak to that, quite honestly, Greg does have a point. They have mirrorless cameras right now
Yeah.
that you can use the rear screen and it can be set into silent mode, and you won't. And because you're in a digital workflow at this point, unless the monochrome M I'm presuming that's a digital camera, right?
Both digital and they're both mirrorless.
Right. So basically, the big advantage is that you get a true monochromatic image from raw image
Yeah.
from the monochrome.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell. Last thing I don't use anymore that I wish I did. This.
And what is that? I can't see it from here.
That
Now. I'm
is a
sorry.
Sunpack 120J
Oh,
bulb flash.
Sunpack. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is. I purchased this maybe 12 years ago, and I used it when I was using my Mamiya 7 on the street as a flash fill. but I haven't really used it in 3 or 4 years since I didn't shoot really with it at all after that.
Hmm.
And it just this past month I went out to use it again, and it was a different experience because I was using it with the M10 and not the Mimiya 7. So it was a different experience. Yeah, Greg.
Um, just a tech thing. Uh, what was it like? The aesthetic going from a square to a 35. Wasn't the was there any visual adjustment you had to make
Um,
shooting Mamiya to go ahead?
no adjustment. As a, it's
Because the framing is it's a different aesthetic
it's
shooting a square
yeah.
frame as opposed to
Yeah, now you remember, a 6x7 is not necessarily square. It's more 4-3 or 3-4. So it's not square. Where 35 millimeter, no, actually, 6x7 is not even 4-3. 35 millimeters 4-3. 6x7 is a little different. It's more square, but it's not actually fully square. It's rectangular.
okay, but it's still a little kind of it's a different visual aesthetic though.
It definitely is a different visual aesthetic. Let me share this again, and just because I mean, again, this is a 35 millimeter full frame. Okay, where this is a 6x7 full frame.
So with the monochrome, you'd be dedicated to a 35 millimeter frame. Would you ever consider a camera that allows you in-camera masking to so that your image uh, already has those proportions built into it?
No, because I think what happens is we tend to adapt to what we're using, and we take the combination of the framing that the camera is equipped with, and the lens that you get with it, and you sort of make it work for what you have. Most
Well, in the
people,
beginning, yeah. But I mean, after a while, you're experienced enough. We all are to know what is our format and what we prefer.
well, yeah, for more than 15, 18 years, my format was this.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so that's what I shot for.
Do you have any 6x7 horizontal shots
Um, this is
loaded?
yeah, that's a 6x7 horizontal.
That is?
Yeah, full frame, uncropped.
Yeah, see, to me, to my eye, that's kind of boxy. It's a different.
It's not square, but it's rectangular. But it's less square. I'm sorry. It's rectangular. Uh, but the 35 millimeter format. If I just take it right now and just switch to the 35 millimeter format, you have this much difference in the aspect ratio. So this
Right.
is the difference between that aspect ratio. I'm sorry, and this one. So the additional white at the bottom. Gosh, you can't do it anymore. Even that's the difference. That white space is the aspect ratio difference. So this is a 6x7 diagonal, where this is a 35 millimeter diagonal. Different.
Yeah, but it's a totally different. I want. It's a different. It's the my. It kind of. Okay, going back to like last week's compositionally, something that would look right in a 35 wider format wouldn't look right in a 6.7.
If you were talking about,
You'd have to change the composition to match the
yeah, right. If you were taking a portrait of a person with a 6x6 versus a 6x7, the placement of the head within the frame for standard practices would be in a different spot.
okay.
Right?
Okay.
And 35 millimeter would be the same. Actually, if you think about it, it would be if you think about standard compositional practices, the head of a if you're taking a portrait of a person in a 6x6, their head would basically be dead centered from the horizontal and from the vertical. And again, if you're shooting a vertical frame, well, in a 6x6, there is no vertical. It's just dead center. But then if you were shooting on a 6x7, the face would be higher in the frame, above center, and a 35 millimeter be actually way above center, closer to the top of the edge of the frame.
Right. Right. So totally different visual aesthetic.
Yeah, it is a totally visual. But then again, that's the adjustment that we automatically make when we're looking through camera.
You said you didn't have any issue making that adjustment?
No, because I was shooting 35 before that. And
Okay.
then I went to 6x7, and then
Okay.
I went back down to 35.
Okay. So do you find that you like the 35 format better? Is that why you went back, or?
I went back for the digital form factor.
Okay.
And it just happened to be 35 millimeter. It happened to be something I could afford at that time. There was no way I was going to be able to afford a 6x7 digital camera.
Okay.
Yeah. Nowadays, you could probably get one for about a good price, but back then I couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm a closet Leica fan, but I
Uh,
wish they would make it bigger because my hands are kind of big and it feels like a toy in my hands.
that's what makes it so attractive to other people. It's so
Well,
small.
it's that small camera aesthetic, right? That
Yeah,
Rasan talked about, where you can just sort of slip in, take his
yeah,
little pic, and skedaddle.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
just, yeah, go ahead.
the other thing, do you have to make any adjustment or do you find any issue with rangefinders? Because it used to drive me nuts shooting a rangefinder, but what I was looking at through the rangefinder was not what the lens was seeing. So it would shift slightly. Is there any issue with that?
No. I think you're talking about parallax.
No, no,
Okay, you're not talking about parallax then. Okay,
Well,
no.
it's the convergence between the rangefinder. There's usually a target in there, isn't there, of some sort, and then that matches up with what your lens should see. It's an approximation.
Yeah,
probably I haven't looked through a rangefinder in a long
yeah,
time, and that's why
yeah,
I asked.
Yeah, I don't have it.
What
yeah.
I was
They
looking
give
at
you,
through the
yeah.
viewfinder was not what the lens was seeing.
No, it's not. You're not looking through the lens. What happens is when you look through the rangefinder, you're actually going to see a white square, which
Right.
renders the approximation of your lens
Okay.
based
All
on
right.
what lens you have attached to it. It's not necessarily. And what happens is when you look through a single lens reflex, what you see is what you get. But when you look through a rangefinder, you're actually seeing more than what you're going to get. And so the white frame lines within this patch is going to tell you the approximation of what's going to be in your frame. What's outside the frame is not going to be in your sensor.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the quick and short of it, really.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll probably join the Leica family soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you about the items that were on my list. I really wasn't going to talk about what's in the camera bag, but I was going to talk about what isn't. There was the big item that I wish I had never purchased. I'll tell you that first, and only because I didn't use it. It wasn't that it doesn't, it's not useful, but I bought one of these, and this is
goodness.
Motor
a
drive.
battery. It's a battery pack for a Nikon D800E that I use, and I bought this auxiliary battery pack. It's not Nikon, it's off-brand, and I thought I was being really clever by getting the extra power supply in it because I
Yeah,
do photo sessions that last a long time,
yeah,
and I didn't want to have to switch batteries.
yeah,
But the type of work that I was doing at the time, the sports, it made more sense for me to uh, photograph the sports with the one battery in the camera and keep another one in my pocket, because sometimes it was outside and it was cold, and with the battery in the battery pack, it got as cold as the one that was in the unit, and
yeah.
unfortunately the battery would drain faster than I thought. So as much as I thought this would be a great idea, it didn't really work for me at the time.
Wait, what kind of
One of
batteries? Like NiCads or
No,
standard?
no, you can
Recharge?
put NiCads, and you could also put alkalins in here, but I used to use the adapter for the. I'll show you. I use the adapter for the rechargeable unit because I bought a couple of batteries for the camera,
Oh, the
and this one only
proprietary
holds one.
battery?
I'm sorry, yeah, you can tell this is kind of an off-brand because it only holds one extra battery. The the branded one, I believe, used 2 batteries, but this also gives you the ability to put NiCads, different kinds of NiCads, and also alkaline batteries with a different holder. But it didn't really work. It was just only because I was photographing outside at the time, and I was, in 10 degrees and 32 degrees and 10 degrees. It didn't work for what I was doing at the time. I thought it would save me some time, but it really didn't help. Something that I have wanted, but I never wound up buying, well, believe it or not, Apple boxes. A set of Apple boxes. I never bought Apple boxes, so I didn't have a studio, and I always felt that was something that, you only get that when you have a studio. Yep. And I found myself photographing a lot of people on location, and I realized if I just taken some Apple boxes with me, I could sort of help change the size of the individuals in the portraits, so make my life a lot easier rather than telling people to duck or having someone sit on a chair and just get the heights right. And I'm trying to think. Oh, and the thing that I wish that I still use but have absolutely no need for is the Nikon MD4 motor drive on the F3. When I started, right after school, I got an F3 and I was photographing fashion outside. And that MD4, huh? Yeah, the MD4. And you can see 20 years later, you go, oh, it's like the MD4. I can do this, but it has no bearing on the actuations of the mirror or the film advance because there's no film in a digital camera. So it was just additional power and the look of a motor drive for this item. But that motor drive really made me feel like a professional when I was my first assignments, because the big deal was, you get to roll a 36 and 35 millimeter. You put it through the camera and click, crank, click, crank, click, crank. That's not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to kind of get a burst of photos, particularly if someone's moving, if they're changing their position. It was really kind of a great way to work. And so that whole mystique of the motor drive is really something that I think everybody from the late 20th century really remembers, that you just don't really have that anymore. But that's really it. That's kind of my 3. What's not in the bag. Some other time we can talk about everything that's in the bag. I think, Ken, you may have covered all that already, but that I didn't want to probe into everyone's bag just yet. I just want to talk about some of the stuff that was kind of fun and stuff we don't use and things like that.
Yeah, I could sympathize with the motor drive, because I purchased one too, and then I look at it, I had no real reason to get it.
Yeah, well, the weird thing is it depends. If you do a variety of work, you wind up buying a variety of things, and so you don't. And sometimes you just don't feel yourself saying, "I got to do this," but there's a specific type of work that you're doing exclusively, and so that's specifically the tool for that.
Yeah, so, that term gear acquisition syndrome or GAS, it really way before the digital age. We just didn't.
Oh no, I was ruthless for not buying equipment. I still have Dynalite. Dynalite went out of business, and I still have Dynalite strobes from the late 90s. I had to augment them with some Westcotts and some photo flexes. But yeah, I still have those Dynalites. Those things are fantastic.
They're tanks. They last forever.
Oh, goodness gracious, yeah. You just change the bulbs and they keep rocking.
Yeah, can you just for lack of someone's knowledge about what an apple box is?
Oh, an apple box. It's like an apple crate. It's made of wood. And they start the size of a milk crate or an apple crate. It's like a milk crate made out of wood. And they have handles cut into them so you can. But the key is that they're wooden and they're very sturdy. You can hold the weight of an adult on the apple box. You can put them on their side. You can put them on their on end so that they're about 2 feet by I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet by a foot, and they're just like boxes that you can use to pose people. Yeah, And that's an apple box, and there's a half apple box, which is half the width, and then there's a quarter that's even half of that, and you can get a set of them, and you can use those as podiums to put people on. Let's say you have two individuals who are the same size, you can stand one on the apple box and they look taller, and it's just that simple.
Yeah.
It just, sometimes you just need to raise someone, or sometimes you need to lower someone, have them sit. It just makes your life much easier. And that's really it for me. So, Greg, what's on your list of stuff that you bought that you said, "Oh man, I wish I'd never bought that"?
Something that I wanted to buy. I loaded it to the page. Can you pull it up, Ken, to our page? Because I don't know. I was you see my last post I put up there?
Give me a sec.
No? Okay, give me a second.
No. Give me a second.
Now,
Let me.
give him a second. He'll pick it up.
Sure. Well, let's see. I really haven't regretted much of anything. I mean, I learned a lot. I remember back in the day, I had my Minolta, was it XD7 or something, one of those, and it was one of the ones with the heat sensor. That was like the latest. You touch the thing and it would activate the mechanisms, and then you could see uh, your f-stop, shutter speeds, and recommendations and all of that stuff. And it was great, wonderful, until I took it out in New York's winter, and my fingers got so cold that they didn't activate the sensor, gloves or not, So I kind of gave up on that, and I went back to just a standard manual. I really haven't had many regrets. I mean, most of the equipment I get, I bought it for, uh, what I could afford budget wise, and I made it do what it do. I concentrated like you were saying. I love you guys. You guys, yeah, that's it. That's the one thing that I wish I had gotten in my camera bag. A jet and a destination and a full, several
Well,
memory
I'm sure you have destinations listed, but it's the jet's the more difficult part to acquire.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I don't mind flying economy, just as long as I can get there. I've been kind of sedentary lately, and I've really got to get back out there and start shooting. But I am determined and promised myself that I'm not going to really concentrating on any new series until I get a handle with you guys. Gracious help, thank you, gentlemen, of organizing the photographs I have. I got to make a call to Apple later this week. They're going to help me pull all my images from all my external drives so I can put them in an organized space, and then from there start cataloging them or such. But then after that, yeah, that's it. I'm going to be jetting around doing, if something happens. I miss that, being able to just get up and go, you know, um, and, having the freedom now to do that. Uh, that's about it. Just being able to go to a destination, something I've always wanted to see, say, or do, and do some photo essays, and whatever is there will present itself to me. Let's see, camera equipment wise, wow. I don't know. I just need a good sharp lens. Give me a sharp lens and a couple of memory cards, and I'll work it. I can.
Right, but just a sharp lens. But I mean, are you talking like 50 millimeter, 35 millimeter, a zoom, telephoto?
Well, I would like some really fast lenses. That's one thing. I mean, I had a 1.4 that I absolutely adored, and I enjoyed, being able to do shallow depth of field. I think that's one of the most fun things. I would love to have a 1 or 1.2, um, but I'm really not shooting anything that would. I know it would present itself, but I mean, if I were looking for something that I wanted to get, it would definitely be and I would be unlike Ken. I don't mind having three cameras slung over me. I like when I was shooting.
Yeah.
I had a one body with the telephoto, you know, and fixed or zoom, because they never know. And then I had one with a 18 or 14 on it on the other shoulder. Something happened, I get whatever I could wide, and then I'd sling the other one over, and I'd get my close up sweat coming out of pores and stuff like that. So I like that. I do like the quietness of the Leica. When I was back in New York, I did have went to there was like a seminar at the Photoville. That photographer you told me about, Ken. I went and sat and I listened to him, and I mean, I know. You know, a lot of the street photographers. You know, the old school hot shows. You know, they had Leicas and they swore by them, and this, and it's quiet, and you know, they didn't get chased around by "Why'd you take my picture?" that kind of thing. But you know, they're good on movie sets and such too. You know, quiet, very quiet cameras. You get great, crazy, tack sharp images.
Well, a Leica doesn't it doesn't offend people as much as a DSLR sometimes in the street. You know.
Well, it doesn't look as obtrusive as you know,
Yeah.
like a big honking 35 with a 12-inch lens on it. You know.
Everyone kind of knows, hey, that's a camera. But
Right.
with a Leica is a little bit less. You know,
It's less intimidating.
it's less intimidating. You're a little bit, you don't seem, like you're going to do anything nefarious with it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone with a zoom lens without a subject on hand always looks nefarious. You know, they always look, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
in this day and age, with everyone has a camera now, it's a different thought and mindset now. The bigger cameras, I mean, depending on what city you're in. If you're in New York, you're more thought to be a tourist than you are a photographer if you're carrying a big DSLR around, and you know, if you have a fanny pack on and you have a couple of kids following you, you know you're a tourist, and you can probably disguise yourself as such if you want to, but that's a lot of work to disguise yourself as a tourist. But anyway.
Other camera equipment. Let's see. What do I have? Well, I got a bunch of like random stuff. You know, like what if scenarios, like camera rain jackets, lens range to lane rain jackets with an extension for the flash on top. And then, you know, I'm in California. It doesn't freaking rain down here, first of all. And let's see. I mean, most of the equipment, I just work the equipment that I have, you know, to get the best shot and then try to focus more. I always like you guys are great tech folks, and I love that in you. But you know, I would like to I get a kick out of getting a pinhole camera and trying to see what I get out of that, you know. But because I got that kind of twist to the left a little bit. But let's see, cameras, super. I mean, I shot Hasselblads. I wouldn't mind having a 8x10 camera, actually. You know, just for the flowing of it. Give me a Deerdorf and a couple of 810 sheets and a wet lab.
That's cumbersome.
Right, exactly. It
That's
forces
a
you
lot.
to
That's a
shoot
lot of work.
one frame at a time, and everything in that frame, it has to be thought through because it's a slow, deliberate process. And I did one assignment at crap, and I wished I had my 35 with me, but I was just kind of wandering around looking for something to shoot, you know, honking this over my shoulder, blah blah blah. I sit it down and I look, and there's like this little kid, and he's, you know, those big wooden picnic tables, right? Those 7-foot tall picnic tables, and he was tipping them all up so they're like sitting on their side like this. I have the picture somewhere. That's why I got to get more of it. I apologize. But he had done like 4 of them, and he's doing the last one. And I'm feverishly trying to. I'm like, wait, don't tape it yet. And I'm setting it up and everything. And he just got that much out of frame. I mean, just a foot. If I could have just caught a foot on the edge of the frame, you know, that would have made my career. I mean, I'd have made me happy. Anyway.
Right.
Ah, all I got was the table tilted. It's kind of interesting, but it's like, you know, look, I got chill bumps. I'm so excited about that image. Anyway, but yeah.
Hey, I worked with another sports photographer, and they had a they had a monostand in the studio monostand in the dugout, and they were taking pictures of the players when they came back in. So that happens. They had a DSLR, but they were using a monostand.
Thank God, man.
It's wild.
Oh.
Well, that's about it. I mean, just a jet so I could get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
A camera, sharp camera, a couple of lenses, and
Oh my goodness, I feel so humble now. I'm talking about the Apple boxes. If I could just buy some Apple boxes, and you guys are going for the wish list is really good. Good for you.
I don't really have a wish list. That's about it. I mean, it's great if you're doing studio. Those Apple boxes, they do that a lot in film. We use them, doing film stuff, and they're great to have. Boy, they're great to have. But I don't know. I'm just kind of open, kind of flexing and stuff like
So
that.
what? All right. So you covered everything except for one thing,
What's
one item, and you said there's nothing. Is there anything that you just found yourself saying at this point, maybe I shouldn't have bought that, or I wish I hadn't have bought it because it was just not as fantastic as I thought it was. Was there anything?
Um, um, wow. Says wish I didn't buy it. Well, almost.
Right. And Ken, you didn't answer it either. Like it wasn't anything you said that you said like, hey, I wish, I bought it, but you kind of go, I really shouldn't have bought it. At
We'll
this
get
point.
to him. We'll get to him. I almost regret getting the flash meter 4 because
Okay.
the novelty of it. I could do strobe and mix light and everything.
Right,
But the
right.
cameras started getting smarter and smarter, so that the camera was giving me the same readings as uh, as the flash meter. I'd go in and get close, fill the frame, and it would give me a reading, and I'd back up and read the whole thing. Read the sky, and I could do it through the lens. I'm like, okay, I'll do these separately. It's different in film. Okay, it helps
Right.
a lot. Where you got
Right. So you're saying
film
relatively
camera.
quickly, you kind of go, I spent a lot of money on this thing and it was great, but
Right. And
yeah,
I
that's
didn't
what
have
I'm talking about.
at the time. I didn't have enough experience in film, to be the director of photography, where I had to get the lighting right and I had to know where the lighting was. Then tell the cameraman, okay, this needs to be f6. This shutter speed, this shutter angle, blah 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 blah. Unfortunately, that didn't marry up with what I was doing at the time. If it was, that was close to the only regret of gear that I bought that I maybe wish I didn't. That was probably the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. It took, you got some use out of it first, but then
Oh
yeah.
yeah, it was a laugh.
Yeah. What
Not to
about
the
you, Ken? Was there anything that you just said, kind of, a year or two later, or maybe a couple of years, I didn't really need that. You felt like you needed it at the time. You got it, maybe you used it a little bit, and then you went, oh, you did say that. You mentioned the
I remember
drive. Yes,
the
sorry.
MD12 motor drive for the Nikon FE.
Yeah.
Dumb, 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 dumb. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't. Actually, in the second piece of that, the Nikkor 200 millimeter f 2.8. No, I don't think it was 2.8. It's like 3.5 or something. Why in the world would I need a 200 millimeter lens? I may have.
Hey, it depends on what there are things that we all wanted. You go, oh, I gotta get this
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah, yeah. That.
There's an old saying. It's kind of like a condom. It's better to need it and not have it than have it and not need it. Did I say that right? Better to have it and not. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yeah, 200 millimeter
and
lens.
that's your PSA for the day.
Yeah,
There you are.
no.
No.
Yeah.
But I hear you. I hear you. Because we all have ideas about when we were younger, we had ideas about what type of work we'd be doing, and as you get older, you kind of finite. You're not finite, but you kind of narrow the scope of that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Know what you're going to be doing and what's required and what's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, but one thing I do like, which is also attracting me to Leica, and you saying, what am I going to do with the 200 millimeter? Leica almost forces you to get right up in the trenches. There's no, you're taking pictures and you're like, oh, that guy was a lot closer than it looks on the print.
Right.
Leica forces you to get in the trenches, and I like that part of it. 'Cause I had my 18 or
Right.
15. I could get in there, and but I had this big honking camera. That'd be fun. I really want to experience that.
Right. But I mean, I think you're also speaking not only to the suite of lenses that tend to be on the normal to wide side and the visual acuity of those lenses, and you're also speaking to the megapixels that they're now offering and the legacy. You're also talking about the legacy. I mean, like David selecting a slingshot and King Arthur pulling the sword out of the stone and Thor with his hammer. You're talking about all of these about picking a tool specifically for a task. And what the legacy of the Leica is a fine art and journalistic studio. Excuse me, not studio, journalistic legacy that you are, becoming part of when you own that. I mean, there are other brands that do other things, but I think for the Hasselblad people, it's all about commercial work, studio, or weddings, depending on which side of that people tended to be on, portraiture. So it's either retail portraiture or commercial work. But the Leica that Ken was talking about really is about reportage and art, fine art, as we know it.
It's also got a little bit of panache, like the Flash Meter 4. You whip one of those out, and those who know. They're like, oh, it's got the mic. He must, he knows something. So,
Right.
in addition to it being a damn good camera, doing what it's done for so many years, it's also got this, cash.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. S3 is fantastic. It's not a rangefinder, but oh my goodness, it's just a monster of a camera. But that goes along with the Apple boxes. But it's not gonna happen. It's more along the lines of the plane than the Apple boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But I can safely say that these. Thank you for indulging me in this, because I really kind of wanted to get a sense of the less intense, this is what I use in my bag. This is what I have. You got to have this. You got to have that you see on a lot of other YouTube videos. I just didn't want to go there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure at some point we'll have to kind of spec out some things for people if people start talking to us about, well, what do you use for this and what did you use for that? But it's just kind of nice to kind of get a sense of where everybody is in terms of what they're thinking about.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So the whistle has blown.
Yeah,
and that means we are probably through. I guess anybody else have anything to add?
No.
You guys gave me a great idea for an episode, though. But go ahead. Is it my turn next week?
Well, here we are. Yeah, I think it might be. No, it's Ken's turn next week. So here we are at the whistle stop. No, this is the three black creds photographers talking about just some of the gear that some of the things that aren't necessarily on our super wish list, although Ken did go there. We might, but the gear that we wish we would have to make our lives a little bit easier, and the gear that we used to use but don't use anymore, but wish we kind of did because it was so much fun. And then the last one is the stuff that we really wish we never got because it didn't really help as much as we had hoped it would. And that's really it. So that's it. Good night.
Catch you later.